Philip, it's so nice talking with you. Big fan. I'm loving the show. I feel like it's sort of heating up now. We just finally got what, 5 million in the bank.
Yes,
I guess
ma'am.
first just to dive into that, how I guess shocking was it that you guys got 5 million? How shocking was it that it was Dixon who sort of banked it?
To be honest, it's one of the things where I thought going into the game we were going to be really zeroed in on like banking money and going to temple every night, and then the interpersonal relationships kind of took over, and the priority and the drama of the game overshadowed the money. So I never knew how much we were gonna put in. The only thing that I had to worry about was stay here for another day.
Yep, that's fair. I was thinking, I was like, you had to, and maybe I'm wrong, but when you see Parv, who you
Yep,
clocked pretty much right away,
immediately.
um, you had Dr. Will show up too. Like, if those guys weren't there, I would assume you would be at the top of the target list. No?
Okay, here's the weird thing that I'm not understanding, because even in watching it back, they don't see me as a physical threat. Now, I
No.
am not trying to say I am an Academy Award turned person, but I'm a large man. And so they don't see me as a threat, and I don't know why. But here's what I will say: I do know that I went into the game with a plan. That I was like, if I lead with vulnerability and being and wearing my heart on my sleeve and being an educator and prioritizing that over a bodybuilder, a half marathoner, a personal trainer. I was like, okay, what if I was just a teacher number one? I was like, are they gonna believe that and go along with it? And they did.
Hmm. Yeah, I was reading that. Okay, so you got actor, choreographer, fitness instructor, model, teacher, bodybuilder. Like, yeah, there's a lot of facets of you. I also learned you're from New Jersey. I'm also from Jersey.
Where are you
Um,
from?
I'm from Tom's River. It's like Jersey
Oh, you're
Shore.
like way down there. Okay, cool. I'm like right next to Rutgers, New Brunswick.
Okay. Yeah, so you were teaching in Jersey and then you moved to Texas, right?
I was, yes. I just left the classroom in 2022 after teaching. So I did all the things. I hit the millennial checklist, two master's degrees by 22, got hired 3 weeks out of school, and I was like, this is it. And then from there, I went on to teach middle school. Everyone's always like, how come? Because that sounds awful. And I was like, wait, it was. But here's the thing: the reason I went back to seventh grade specifically, I think we can all admit seventh grade was the worst year of our lives. And it
Yeah.
feels like the world is falling apart, and you're 12 and you're half a kid, half an adult, and nothing makes any sense. All your
Puberty.
friends are either getting older or younger, and you're just looking for someone to say, you're gonna be okay. And for me, I thought if I'm gonna go back to a grade and do it again, I had to make sure that my kids had the absolute opposite experience. I was
Oh,
that guy that I needed when I was 12.
interesting. Do you have any, I wonder if any of your former students are watching the show.
Oh, they are reaching out every hour. They're watching it more than anyone else. Yes, they are.
That must be fun. So yeah, did you just want a career shift after 10 years? You were like, I just want to do something new?
So I hit year 12 and I had done like amazing things. I was the New Jersey 2020 teacher who makes magic. I was one of the McDonald's Men of Mick Cafe for like African American men to give back to their community. And to give you like a Spark Notes version of it all, out of about 500 educators, I was the only Black content teacher kindergarten through 12. So I stayed. For a very long
Really?
time, I stayed for two kids who looked exactly like me, to be able to look up at the front of the room and say, I have options. If I want to do this, I can. But more so, for kids who didn't look like me, to be able to say, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm
Mm,
evolving from someone who's had a different life experience than me. And I think you can only do that for so long. By the time you get to year 12 and you've hit every award, every accolade, and you realize that you're like, I'm here for the kids, you have to look in that mirror and say, what do I want? And so
yeah.
I received an opportunity to be a group fitness instructor at Barry's in Austin. I did a little research. I flew out to Austin. I did all the things. I figured out I would be the first Black male instructor in the entire state And I said, you know what? I've already broken down a lot of boundaries in my life. What's one more?
You are you an overachiever? Did you grow up an overachiever?
To be honest, I grew up mostly on my own. My
Mm.
parents are pretty young. They had me at 21, and so they were working in Brooklyn and Manhattan, and I was in before care, after care in elementary school. My best friend was the janitor. We went from room to room and cleaned up after school and stuff, and just like hung out. So like I was raised by like television sitcoms and all adults. And so like I just have always been an adult. Like since age like 3 or 4, I've just been like, yep, me. I just got like slightly taller, a little skinnier.
That's so interesting. Okay. And then Deal or No Deal comes along. Like, how did this opportunity happen? And, were you looking to try out TV or did you always want to, did you act and like, did you want to get into reality TV? Tell me about that sort of journey.
For me, I think that if you asked me as a kid, did I think that I was going to end up here doing this? I want to be honest with you and say no, but then I want to be really honest with you and say yes, because I think it's one of those things where you have to know that you are bringing something else. That, like, from a
Mm,
very young age, I was like, people aren't listening to me. They're not looking at me, but I know that I have something to say and I have something special to bring to the world. And I think in really discovering it, I think I discovered it on stage in middle school. I did my first musical and I could hear the applause. I was in ensemble of the Music Man. I was wearing the wrong pants, the wrong hat, but I was proud. And I remember it to this day, the applause that I heard. And I said, I want to do this for the rest of my whole life. And then I was a pretty big part. I don't want to say like the lead in every musical, but I was like the lead in musicals throughout like high school and stuff. I did straight plays. I went to college as a musical theater major.
oh,
I was the lead my freshman year in my college musical and stuff. And then after that, I pretty much, even in teaching all day, was still an actor. I was still doing things. I directed the New Jersey Community Theater production of SpongeBob the Musical. I'm a director, choreographer, singer, dancer, all that stuff. And if you really want me to go like all the way back, I think the reason that I do the things that I do. My dad's side of the family has like a pretty bad stutter, like pretty bad. And so in growing up and going to like speech therapy in elementary school and getting pulled out of class and all that other stuff, I was told, and again, it was the 90s, give this
yep.
woman grace and forgiveness. I was told, hey, listen, you are super smart and creative, and there are so many things you can do where you don't have to speak. That like there are so many other skills and talents that you can use. And that's so the person I am, that I heard her and said, okay, then I need to make sure that I do everything that entails
Mm,
talking. And so I started to become an actor. I stood in front of the classroom every day reading novels. Now I'm a personal trainer. I'm like a weird Instagram influencer where I'm like consistently talking about like self-confidence and self-worth and all of that other stuff. And it's really been so enlightening, because
mm,
I was like, do I not go on the show because I don't want America to pass judgment or to make fun of me or insult me or whatever else? And I have to remember it. Then I was like, okay, you are a smart person. Look up the numbers and stuff. And it's like a solid 20% of our population that has speech differences. I guess that's like a blanket term per se. And I was like, there is not a better person to represent them than me. Because
mm.
at this point in my journey, I'm leaning in instead. And that took a long time to be like, I'm good with who I am. And I went through the whole like, should I get hypnotherapy? Should I get this? Should I get that? And I was like, no, I'm just going to go to the island and try my best and be my best and be genuine and authentic and hope that people just really see who I am.
Yeah, it's so funny you're saying this because I look at you, at least so far, we're only a few of us, like as sort of the voice of reason, like saying what the audience is thinking in a really funny, concise way. Do you sort of, you're really good in confessionals. So I think that is a testament to like sort of what you're talking about. And it's funny you say that. I was also in speech therapy and now I'm a podcaster. So like, we could do things.
Look at
Uh,
us out here killing it. Look at us. Okay.
yeah. But yeah, so when you're filming the show, are you like, you must enjoy doing confessionals, right? Because this is, I don't know, it comes off as if you're having fun, but maybe I'm wrong.
I live for confessionals. If I could give confessionals of my everyday, I would. I think that it really just, I have a great ability in watching as much reality TV as I have. I have a great ability to not break the fourth wall. Like, I know what I'm
Mm,
experiencing, but then I have that ability to take a step outside of it and be like, so as a viewer, here's what's happening. Currently, we got this one that's on the, and like, I've kind of found a way to leave my opinions out of it and still kind of like include it a little bit. But I can give you a really good objective view as to what's happening. I've watched enough Housewife franchises to know that somebody has to do it. Somebody has to be like, so listen, here's the deal right now. So that you're
mm.
like, oh, that's what's happening. Okay, cool, great. So there are so many things that I end up narrating or speaking through that I have no involvement in at all.
I know it's fun though. I like it because it kind of was, we need that. Um, but when it comes to, okay, so also the show, you see Parv there, you clock her. It seems like from what we've seen, you guys end up always like working together, but are you really working together? Like it's kind of one of those things you can't tell, but you're always like sort of on the same team in some way, right?
So for me in my head, initially, I thought to myself, if there was another Boston Rob, if there was another big name, they have to go immediately. And then
Mm,
I kind of like surveyed the scene and took the temperature of the room. And when more than half of the group didn't know who she was, I was like, that kind of negates her power in this situation.
mm,
So the only power she still had was being able to play a game, play it well, and stay afloat for as long as she could. And so I knew if someone was going to be playing a game 24 hours a day, it was going to be her. And I had to be standing right next to her because if I wasn't there, I was the next one out. And so I knew that I had to align myself with her. So what you see at the beginning of the show where no one really knows her, me and her are tight. We are tight. Here's why. You're going to love this as a fellow millennial. So we're on the boat, and she was like, she looked back at Storm and MG and Letty, and she's like, look at the Dawson's Creek crew. And I literally went, they don't know what that is. We're the only ones that know what Dawson's Creek is. And she was like, oh God. And I was like, yep. And that's when we fell in love, like episode 1. And it's because we were the only ones that understood that. And so from there, as people start to recognize her power, I kind of take a step away because I'm like, oh, well, like now it's not really working to my advantage anymore. But my initial thought was
mm.
if someone was going to be playing a game, it was going to be her. And it's just a matter of, I always wanted to be right next to whatever was happening the whole time.
Smart. Okay. Well, that makes sense too, because now people are picking up on this whole family thing, and it's like you could sort of pull back, like, I'm not involved with that.
Ick. I give ick to all of it. All of it. No, I can't do it. The sheer fact that I was like, we're
Uh,
adults. We are out here on an island sweating, and you're like, hey mom, hey dad. I'm like, hey slugger. I'm like, I hate the ew, ew. I
hey,
don't need this.
slugger.
Literally, David and Par were like patting him on the head, and he's like, did I do well, dad? And he's like, yes, you did. So, and I was like, are we serious right now? Is this real?
Oh my God. Okay. That's, yeah. How did Dr. Will coming in like change anything for you? Or were you just like, okay, just another target in front of me? Or,
When Dr. Will came in on the yacht and tuxedo and everything was going awry and he just like cruised in, all I could think to myself is the things that older straight men will do to avoid going to like therapy is astonishing. I was like, I don't need all of this. Like, I just don't need it. It's too much. It's three much. He was doing the most for no reason. But I love also at my core, I am a musical theater kid and Dr. Will puts on a show. And that's why I love him. I'm obsessed with him because like whatever he does is on a grand Broadway scale. And I'm here for the insanity each and every day.
yep. See, that's the key. You get that he's always putting on a show. So that makes sense. Cause I feel like some people would be like not understanding what he's doing.
They were like, he's not real. We need to get rid of him. And I was like, he's not real. Grab the popcorn. Like, we are in for it. It's going to be a good day.
Yeah. So in terms of like strategy, were you sort of trying to avoid playing the banker? Were you kind of keep like, was there a strategy? Like, is there an optimal strategy to this game?
To this game, I feel like I looked at it very objectively. I watched season one and I was like, how do you do well here? And
Mm,
it seemed like you have two different avenues to do well in this game. And it was dominate challenges, but also make good relationships. And I was like, if I can do one and or two of those things, I never have to play and I won't go home. And so
right.
I think as viewers will see, as you will see, like the relationships that I made on the island are real. Although I was playing a game, my superpower is human connection. I have a rule for myself, the campsite rule. I use that for other people to always leave people better than you met them. And so the even on day one, when everyone was like, "Hey, how are you? Where are you from?" I would say, "Hey, how are you? What are you like passionate about?" And just
Mm,
like to get to like really dig in there. And I don't want people to think that that was all a big plot or a ploy or whatever else, because I remember all those things. Like that's why I'm as close to everyone on the island as I am, because I'm genuinely interested in people. That's
yeah.
why I love reality TV so much. The idea of psychology and sociology and what people do. Like I never would have met someone like Luke, or especially Luke. I never would have met someone like Luke or Rock. Like those are not people that I interact with on a daily basis. But instead of me kind of pushing them away, I sat right next to them on the sand and I was like, tell me about your whole life. Tell me about everything. And Luke said, well, my guy, I live about 5 hours away from the nearest airport. And I was like, five? That's crazy. He went on a journey to even get here. Like, and it's just so interesting to me that I just love hearing about other people, their stories, and kind of what makes them who they are.
And the benefit of that is it doesn't work in a game like this because I think a lot of times people talk and don't listen, and that's where you go wrong, and those relationships are hard to build if you're not a good listener. So, talk to me about first of all, like on the island. I'm assuming in real life you maintain a diet and routine of some sort. When you do a show like this, how hard is it to sort of adjust to what you were doing at home?
So I started working out on the island day one. What they
Mm.
don't show is that they show Luke running. I'm running about 10 feet behind him at all times because that man runs like 20 miles a day. And I was like, absolutely not. But I was running from day one because I think that you have to really understand, and I say this to my clients a lot, why are you exercising? If it's to look good in a dress or look good on your wedding day, you're going to look like that for exactly one day. And I was like, if it helps give you strength, power, confidence, you feel a sense of discipline, a routine, I can work with that. And so for me, the reason why I was still working out, because everyone's like, you're weightlifting and doing push-ups and stuff every day on this island. And we have an excursion in like an hour. And I was like, it's not for the muscle growth and development. It helps me feel like the best version of me. I am the happiest, the most comfortable, the strongest, and the most powerful when I have woken up and I exercise immediately. I have breakfast after, and then I can take on my day. Even this
Mm.
morning, I taught at 6 a.m. So I knocked out a Peloton class at like 4:30, just because I believe in that rule of, when you're on an airplane, of put on your mask before you help someone else. I think you have to. I think that
Mm.
it would be wrong of me to say, I'm so glad you guys woke up this morning and made yourselves uncomfortable on purpose to get here. And I was like, I'll just work out later around 12 noon when it's easy. Eh.
Yeah. In terms of food, like was it do you watch what you eat? Or are you more like lenient when it comes to diet?
So being on the island, I had to be a little bit more lenient. I try to compete as a competitive bodybuilder once a year. So that's a pretty strict 12 to 16 week regimen as far as like watching your protein, what you're eating, stuff like that. But on the island, I didn't have a lot of options there. So what did work to my advantage is the heat, the humidity,
Oh, yeah.
the physical exertion, and the anxiety of it all. My heart rate was the highest it has ever been for a month. It was just high every day. Like imagine waking up every morning and being like, am I going home today? Like it's just the weirdest thing. And so
Yeah.
you just start to worry and your heart rate is so high. I lost 8 pounds on the island and we were there for like under a month. And I was like, cool, great.
That's a lot, right?
It's a lot for me, especially because I'm not like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm like a big guy, but I'm not a huge guy. And like, it was a lot. Like, if you start to watch, I think I want to say from about this episode on, you're like, he's getting tiny. He's getting extremely small and sad and angry.
Well, that, we see people go on Survivor and these muscly big guys, they lose a lot of muscle mass and then they have problems getting back to that. Did you have anything like that or wasn't that extreme?
um, It wasn't because before the island, I actually trained a lot. Um,
Mm.
I did a lot of big, powerful movements. I hit squats, I hit snatches. I was doing interval sprints because I knew that it was never going to be a matter of like long distance running. Like right now, I'm training for the Austin half and I'm going on 8 mile runs, 10 mile runs, 12 mile runs. I knew in realistically looking at the show, they were never going to say run 12 miles. And so for me, it was going to be a matter of I had to get that quarter-mile run down quick.
Yep.
And what you saw in the Sandcastle challenge is I don't know who that was, but getting to watch that video, I am running like I'm training for a Nigerian track team. I don't know what happened on that day, but I was going. Your boy was going.
It looked like those castles were also like, I think someone kicked one and didn't even move. It wasn't like they were packed in there. I don't know.
Let's clear this up. That was not sand. I don't know
Okay, yeah.
what the Lord made that what that was those castles were made out of, but that was not
Concrete.
sand. We thought it was, and I was like, huh, huh, and I was like, this is
Oh,
not
God.
moving. They actually made the castles a few days in like advance and let them harden. So by the time we got there, it was like not a movable thing.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, well, when it comes to like, barriers, for example, or some of the classes that you instruct,
Mhm.
what sort of advice would you give to someone who's sort of intimidated by these classes? Because you talk to people and they're like, I don't like working out in groups, or I don't want to, especially if it has like a leaderboard. I know friends like this. What
Yes.
sort of advice would you have? Because I think some people think it's intimidating to show up to a class when it's like, people are very close in these classes. It's almost like they hang out sometimes. There's groups. Any advice for like newcomers when it comes to this stuff?
Totally. I think at my specific location, a lot of newcomers kind of come to me. It might be the middle school educator working its way out, but I kind of scoop them up. And I say right out loud,
Hmm.
from the time I shake their hand, I introduce myself and I say, for this class, what's the goal? Objective for this class? And they're like, well, I guess I don't really have one. I was like, let's make one. If your goal is just to leave this room at the end of the hour stronger than you walked in, how would you treat class then? And they were like, oh, I was like, yep. Even if you could only do half of it, I
Hmm.
tell everyone when we're right in the middle of the class to remember who they were 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, and know that out of respect for that person, we needed them because without them, we wouldn't be who we are right now. But understand in this moment, as we stand here, we are the strongest, the wisest, and the most knowledgeable we have ever been, the oldest we've ever been right now. And that has power and strength. And getting to watch people just go, I am the oldest I've ever been, which, like, if you really think about it, yeah, but like, still, you have more experience right now than you had an hour ago. And everyone's
Hmm.
like, cool. And I'm like, yep, we're the only goal is to walk out of the room stronger than you walked in. If you can do that, it's a good class. And they're like, cool, great. And like, I think so much of that motivation and power is intrinsic, where a lot of people will credit me with that. And I was like, no, I just provided you with the space to find it on your own, to look in that mirror and remember the hard stuff you've done. This is not as hard. as the hardest stuff that you've done. You've survived 100% of your hard days to
Yeah, I
get
love that
here
quote.
right now.
Yeah, but I will say credit to the teachers of these classes because I do think that deters people. If you don't have a great teacher, you don't have
Totally.
someone like I've definitely been in yoga classes where I'm like, I didn't learn anything. The teacher was kind of mean, so I hate yoga now. Where it shouldn't be like that, right? It does depend on the teacher a little bit, I think, or the instructor. So
I think even in getting to teach English as long as I did, what I love is I'll say pick up 2 heavy weights for a squat, and I'll be like, there's also another option, drop one of those weights. There's also another option, drop all those weights. I like to give different levels because I think that it's my job as a good instructor to meet you where you are instead of where I think you need to
yeah.
be. I have to just understand where everyone has to be. And I've said it before and I will say it again. A good instructor has you believe in me. A great instructor has you believe in yourself. And you're like, I can do this. I can handle it.
What do you think is like the biggest game changer you've seen with people that, you've worked with? Like, is it a mindset thing? Is it a point where you can see progress and then you keep going? Like, is there anything, I guess, that people sort of misconstrue about working out? Like,
I think for me, you keep yourself more accountable if you plan. I think
mm,
when you don't plan and organize in advance, that's what makes you lose that motivation. I have clients that wake up on a Sunday morning when the window opens. I tell all of them, I was like, book your classes for the week. Even if you say, I'm going to go on Monday and Thursday morning, cool, book it. But if you say, I'm going to wait until Wednesday and see if I want to go on Thursday, the odds are you will not.
you're not.
You
Yeah.
won't, right? And so I tell everyone to plan out the week. What is that week going to look like? I just started, and you're going to think this is hilarious. I just started solid core and
Solid core.
body. That's awful. I don't know what
I
in the
heard it's hard.
that it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life. But like, it's one of the things where like, number one, I love it because it challenges me. I work out twice a day. I do
Twice
all
a day?
like, this is awful. This is absolutely awful. I've been in a plank for 3 minutes and I hate it. But the only way I'll do it is if I book the class a week out and be like, okay,
Yeah.
well, next Wednesday I have to go. So I'm going to go whether I want to or not. I think another big thing is people aren't really sure. They don't have a consistent routine. I work out at 6 a.m. like every day, if not earlier. But I know I'm not an evening workout person. Some people really are and they thrive in that. Cool, great. But whatever it is, hold it consistently instead of, I'll just go tomorrow when I'm like in the mood. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
No one's ever in the mood, myself included. I'm like, no, I wake up and I do this. Another big question everyone asks is, how do you wake up so early in the morning to exercise? Thing number one, I keep my alarm clock out of arm's distance, so I have to stand up to turn it off. Thing number two, this is going to sound weird. I sleep in gym clothes. I sleep in gym clothes so that I just wake up, turn off the alarm, and then I'm already there, dressed, ready to go.
Smart. I like that.
Thing number three is I use a piece of music that really hypes me up as an alarm. I am not one of those like wake up to like the birds and violin. I wake up to like EDM. I start my day in chaos and I end it in chaos. That's just kind of the kind of person that I am. So I would definitely suggest those three for someone who's like, I just want to get started. How would you suggest?
And are you good with sleep too? Like, do you go to bed early or are you a night owl?
No, I'm not good. On average,
I'm not good at either.
I'm like 5 hours at most. It's bad. And I know that you're not good at it either because I talk to you. And that's how I know that I'm like, no, we are collectively not good at it.
Yeah, no. Well, Philip, what is sort of next for you? Obviously, we're going to see how Dondi plays out. I'm really excited. But what is in the future for you? Like, are you open to other reality TV, acting? Do you want to, like, what are you thinking about?
I would love to stay in a reality TV space. I think that I am really good at being a real person. I think that one of the amazing things that I've gotten to see in watching the show is I think every civilian is scared of watching themselves on TV and almost becoming someone else when you're like, who is that? Like, that's like not me. But like, even if you can tell from right now, what you see is me. Like, that's me.
Yeah,
That is
that's
me
true.
authentically. You're like, exactly what I thought he would be like. He is, that tracks. And I think that that doesn't work for everyone, but it works for me.
Mm.
I would love before my next reality show to get into some more swim lessons. I don't know if you heard about this. So I can't
No.
swim. I can't swim. I grew up in Brooklyn, and then by the time I moved to New Jersey at the end of elementary school, everyone else already knew. So like
Yeah.
I didn't even see a body of water till fifth grade. And so
Mm.
when I got selected for the show, I had 3 weeks. And I went to the Austin Swim School and I put these big arms in swimmies. And I, I had 3 weeks to learn how to kind of tread water. And the only reason I say that is because it really does go back to who I am. When someone tells me I can't do something, I have to learn it. I
Yep.
have to learn it. I have to master that skill. I am in no way a master. But I will say that, like, it's one of the things that I love about myself the most. They said, you have to be able to swim. And I said, then I guess I'm going to learn how to swim. And
Mm.
I looked it up and I took adult private swim lessons. And every day I had water in my nose and it was awful, but I did it. And you're going to
Yeah.
get to see all of that play out on the show as well.